Okay, so today what we're gonna do is we're gonna move beyond the in-text citations, and we are going to start learning about works cited. But before we do that, I do want to remind you of some things about in-text citations. So always introduce your quote. No one likes a dropped or dumped quote. Direct quotes are word-for-word copies from the source and are placed in quotation marks. Paraphrases are direct quotes put in your own words and do not appear in quotation marks. The most basic format for a citation is author page number, okay, followed by the period. If there's no author, use a shortened title for the citation, so you would put it that way. And remember, web pages and websites do not use page numbers. Therefore, you just cite either the author or the title. Make sense? So those are the most basic things you need to remember. Also, where's a great place to look if you're confused? What? Purdue OWL. You're going to need that for tomorrow. Remember that. Okay, so for today, we're going to take a look at works cited, which is the second component of the MLA citations. If you only do one or the other, you don't do both of them, that's still considered plagiarism, okay? Because what happens is the works cited is where you provide all the text information, right? Because with this citation, all I know is that somebody named Tyson wrote that on page 75, but you don't know what book. Well, the works cited is where you're gonna find out where the book is at, okay? Like what book it is. Make sense? A little bit, maybe, possibly. All right. So, works cited. All right, this is the basics. Now, these can be a little complicated, so we are going to practice them. I'm going to try to walk you through them. So, works cited page must be on a separate page. So, do I just hit enter until I get to a new page at the end? No, I'm going to put in a page break. So, what you do is you go to the last line of your paper, hit enter, and then insert a page break, and then starts the works cited on a new page. You're going to title the page works cited. This is different from APA. In APA, it's not called works cited, it's called a reference page. So MLA, it's works cited. Then the title should be centered in plain text, no bold or italics. You're going to arrange the sources alphabetically. Names are formatted last name, first name, and then middle initial. I am going to show you a way whenever we're using Word that even if you don't put them alphabetically, you can highlight everything and then there's a way to sort it and it'll sort it alphabetically for you. Okay. All entries should have what's called a hanging indent and end with a period. For a hanging indent, you select the text, go to format, paragraph, and then indentation special, and then drop down. So remember where I showed you to do the 0, 0 to check the 0, 0? Yes. Right above that, it'll say indentations, and then there's a drop down box, and I'm going to show you what that looks like later. But a hanging indent basically is this. So have you ever seen on some papers where there's a line here and then everything else is like that? It's this, okay, that's considered a hanging indent. Okay, so, and then for online sources, you do need to include the URL. What's the URL?
The link.
The whole link, okay? I know, I'm like, oh, what's going on? Okay. So the basic format for one author. So remember the Trevor Noah book? The way you set that up is last name, first name, the title of the book in italics, the city of publication, only if the book was published before 1900. Okay. And then the publisher and publication date. So for the Trevor Noah book, it's Noah, Trevor, born a crime, period. It was by Penguin Random House, LLC, and then 2016. Do you see how it's indented? Okay, do not, a lot of people will just go try to indent that. You have to set up the special indentation for it to work properly. It's gonna throw it off, okay? LLC is like a company, okay? Now, some of you might be wondering, like, where do you get that information? So whenever you're looking at a book, right? If you open the book and you go to the title page, right? There's a title page. A lot of times it's going to have the publisher here. If not, you flip it. And on this information here, you're going to find out the year it was published and the publisher, okay? if it was before the 1900s, you'll also see the city. Okay, so like this one was published in 2007 and it's by Scribner, and Scribner's in New York City. But because it's 2007, I'm not gonna include New York City. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the most basic format. If you have two authors, it gets a little tricky because it's last name, first name, and then first name, last name, title of the book, publisher, published date. So Hall Pete and Alyssa Simmerall, Teach, Reflect, Learn, ASCD 2015. Pretty simple?
Yes.
Yeah. So 3 authors, it's the same thing, except we use the et al. Okay. Now notice that a lot of these are going to reflect your citations, right? So we had Noah and then we had the page number. Well, then I should be able to go automatically after any citation and go to the works cited and find its corresponding citation. Make sense? Okay, pretty simple. All right, so format for 2+ books by the same author. This is where it does get tricky, but again, like I told you guys, most of the time you're not gonna have this issue because you're not in college yet, but it's it's the last name, first name, and first name, last name, title of the book, right? And then what you do is you do 2 dashes, dash, dash, period, and then put the second one. And it's in alphabetical order. So Russell Bertrand, The History of Western Philosophy, Simon and Schuster, 1972. Then I put dash, dash, The Problems of Philosophy. This was by Digireads in 2011. Make sense? Pretty simple, yes? Again, you can find all of these on Purdue OWL. All right, electronic sources. Okay, this is where it can get a little lengthy because a lot of the URLs are super long. But you're gonna do the last name, first name, period. Then in quotation marks, you're gonna put the webpage title, period, the website name, then the URL, period. Now, here's what you also need to include. Then you need to put accessed and then the date, day, month, year. So the day you actually look at it, right? The day you look at that source and you decide you're gonna use it, that's the day you need to include. So for me, I looked up Roberts K et al., which meant that there's at least how many authors? If it has et al., what's the minimum? 3. Et al. Is 3 or more, remember? So Roberts K et al., the website is How the Nation's Growing Racial Diversity is Changing Our Schools, period. And then that's from the Washington Post, comma, and then here's the URL. And then I accessed it on April 14th, 2021. Make sense? Okay. So a lot of teachers, just so you guys know, even in college right now, unless you're something like literature, yes, they will tell you that they don't want anything older than like 10 years, right? Unless you're like analyzing literature or something like that. A lot of times they want sources that are current. So it's very important that you're paying attention to when the date is. Now, there's going to be times where it does not have a date. And I'm going to show you some, and also an alternative way to find the date. But if it doesn't, you would put n.d, no date. Does that make sense? So here, let's say I didn't have a date. Oh, they took it out. Sorry about that. So if you can't find the date though, normally n.d is what you're going to use, okay? So sometimes you'll see that in papers. All right. For a web page without an author, you're going to set it up by the web title. You're going to just leave that alone, but it's still going to be alphabetized with all the ones with author names, okay? So Noah's would come before this. So you would put web page title, then the website name, URL, and then the date accessed on. So this one, if it starts with a number, numbers come before the alphabet, okay? So this would actually come at the very top of yours. So it would be 2020, tied for the warmest year on record. NASA analysis shows. And remember, we had to shorten that when we cited it, but it should be matching enough to where I can say, oh, this is the one they used. Then it was from NASA. Here's the URL, and this is when I accessed it. Then another one, the benefits of an inclusive and diverse and inclusive and diversity in the classroom. The School of Education, there's the URL and access on it. Pretty simple. So you should all be able to do it. So this is what a works cited ends up looking like. Do you see how you can tell the difference between the regular text, how it's all in? Okay, and so these are all the sources, all the quotes that we had yesterday. These are all their sources. So I should know that if somebody's like, well, I like that quote, I think I want to check on it, they should be able just to go to my works cited and say, oh, 2020 tied for the warmest year. Oh, okay, yeah, that was that citation. This is where she got it. And they can go check it out. Okay, so this is very important. If you do not have this part, this is definitely considered plagiarism because I can put anything over here, right? But these have to be able to match. Make sense?
Yes.
So here's a few less common types of entries because there are tons, and I'm going to show you on Purdue OWL because tomorrow you're going to have like kind of like a scavenger hunt where I'm going to purposely give you the less well-known type of citations, and you're going to have to set them up. So movies and films. This has become very popular, especially when it comes to like documentaries and things like that. People like to cite them. So okay, what you would do is in italics is the title of the movie or film. Then you're going to put directed by and then the director's first name and last name of the film studio, and the release year. So it still takes some research when you're using a film. So Avengers Endgame, directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo, Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, 2019. Now, what's the problem with this? What's the problem with this one? What didn't I do?
No. I was gonna say that.
Oh, no, not the date. Look at the way this one's set up versus this one. What's the difference? I'm missing the hanging indent. Okay, so it would be considered wrong. Okay, works cited for TV shows. Okay, because there's also now there's a lot of limited series and things like that, which you could still use. So you're going to use the name of the episode within quotations followed by a period. Series name, written by the first name, last name, directed by first name, last name, distributor's name, and then the distribution date. So Don't Touch That Dial was from WandaVision, who was written by Gretchen Enders and Jack Schaefer, directed by Matt Shakeman, Disney Plus, 15 January 2021. Yes. Make sense?
Yes.
So again, you're gonna have to go do some research if you're gonna want to use like a movie or a show. You're gonna have to go find out this information, and especially when it comes to TV shows, not every episode is written by the same person. So you do need to be specific. YouTube videos, this has become very popular. So let's say you are going to use one of my YouTube videos to cite something. You're going to say, well, Ms. Garcia said in her video, blah, 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 right? You would need to cite that. You need to give me credit. So you would do the author's last name, the author's first name, the name of the video, then in italics YouTube, uploaded by uploader name, if it's different, okay? Sometimes you're not going to have the author's name, right? It'll just say uploaded by. And so you can use that. And then the date uploaded and the URL. So the author's name may not be available. If not, then just start with the video name. So for example, this one, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It didn't have an author. The official Wakandan behind the scenes clip, right? That was the whole title. YouTube, uploaded by IGN on 15 April 2021. And here is the link. The best way to get the link, sometimes you know how you copy it at the top?
Yeah.
For YouTube, it's actually better if you click share and it'll give you a link. And that one's a shortened one because if you try to do it at the top, sometimes it's really long, okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, speeches. This is important because it's not just speeches, but it's also live speeches, lectures, and presentations. When might that come in handy? When might that come in handy? When might this citation come in handy? Live speeches, lectures, and presentations. Well, if you're trying to cite something your teacher said. Your teacher said, or let's say you're watching a presentation by a student and it kind of helped you, you can use it that way too. A lot of course lectures from universities are now online as well. You can also use them for that. So you put the speaker's last name, speaker's first name, the title of the speech, lecture, or presentation, and then this is where it gets tricky. The name of the conference, meeting, name of the organization, the day, month, year that it was given, the name of the venue, location of the venue, and type of presentation. Now, most of you guys will not really use this one. There would be times where I would use it because I do go to live presentations, right? Like I'll go to conferences for teachers. I'll go to conferences about English, so I can maybe use that. You guys, not necessarily. Okay, for some citations, you'll only use some of the requirements because sometimes you don't have all of that information, right? And then types of presentations are things like addresses, lectures, readings, keynote speeches, guest lectures, conference presentation, and class presentations. Now, do you think this is the same? So let's, okay, so most of you guys see speeches where? YouTube, right? So in reality, those ones you would actually use the YouTube video citation, even though it's of a speech, right? Now, let's say I recorded it and I posted it on Schoology, right? Are you gonna use this one? Or would you use the one that's for online or transcribed? The online one. Okay, so this is why I'm saying this one you may not use that often. This is the one that's gonna be more common. It's the works cited for speeches and lectures online transcriptions. This is also for, you know how there's times where I have given you speeches and you're reading them? Okay, so you're reading them on paper. This is what you're gonna use also. So again, it's the speaker's last name, speaker first name, title of the speech, year the speech was given, title of the article, like wherever it's published, the publisher, publish date, URL, and then when you accessed it. So if I was reading the Gettysburg Address, it's Lincoln Abraham, the Gettysburg Address. It was given in 1863. I found it on the site, The Story of Abraham Lincoln, the National Archives, 10 January 2017. And then that's when it was posted. Here's the URL, and then here's when I accessed it. Okay. The reason they want to know when you accessed it is to make sure that it's corresponding, right? I've had times where kids will make up this date and they actually put it before the actual article was even published. So, because they're trying to like make it seem like they've been working on it. So that's why it's in, and also because web sources change. There's a lot of times where they'll put out a news article and then they'll edit it. And so then it changes the date. It'll say edited on blah, 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 blah. So if I go and I'm checking it and yours doesn't match with it, I can look to see when you accessed it. And if it's before that edit date, well, then that makes sense. Does that make sense? So they're continuously editing things. So. All right, so here's an important note, because it seems like if we go by what we think, we're probably gonna have to cite everything, right? Because very few of us just have total original thoughts that have never been thought by anybody else in life, right? So according to Purdue Owl, you don't have to cite everything. If you're providing familiar proverbs, well-known quotations, or common knowledge, you do not have to document the source. So for example, most Americans know that there's 50 states in the United States. If I include that in my paper that's going to be read by Americans, I don't need to cite that, right? That wouldn't make any sense. Everybody knows that, right? Just like at Ellison High School, the Texas Pledge, you guys hear it every day, right? So if I'm writing a paper that's going to be read by somebody at Ellison and I include the Texas Pledge, I don't need to cite that, because everybody at Ellison already knows that. It's common knowledge. So it very much is dependent on your audience. So for example, if I am doing a science paper, right? And I'm talking about how H2O is the formula for water, blah, blah, blah. Would I need to cite that if my audience is science people? No, but if it's being given to an English major, then I'm gonna need to cite that, right? Because they may not know. That's more common H2, everybody knows that, but let's say I'm doing something more complex, right? So it's very much based on your actual audience. You need to be aware of who your audience is when you're doing your sources, okay? Make sense? Yes, no, maybe so? All right, and just like this information that I got it from Purdue OWL. And so I provided this so that I'm not plagiarizing. All right, so now you should be able to avoid being a work thief because you know how to do in-text citations and works cited. And from now on, you're going to be required to do that anytime you use outside sources. So if it's not something that I commonly know, and I don't feel like you just got off the top of your head, you're going to have to cite it. And this is going to be very important because we are going to be doing research. Okay. Yes. All right. So let me show you a couple of things. So let's take a look at Word. So who wants to come set up the MLA paper for me real quick? And I'll drop their lowest grade.
I mean, I'm remembering.
I mean, the class can help you. If the class helps him, I'll drop everybody's lowest grade.
All right.
Set up an MLA paper. You do it right here, this circuit keyboard and this.
Okay. So I just want to make sure this is correct.
Is that the first thing you do? Well, normally?
Normally, yeah, because you gotta make sure it's in the right text, on the right format. Yeah, it's in the middle. So I put that right there. That's already at 12. And then we have to go over. We have to get what's it called? The little thingy right here. What's that called? Headline. No.
The header?
Header. There you go.
How do you get up there?
I forgot how to do that. Double click.
At the top.
Oh, right here. Okay. That's the header. And then come over here. And then we need to go like right.
So how do you get it over there though?
Yeah.
Go by phone?
There.
Phone.
Ah,
Now, what's the first thing you notice right there?
sorry, skip it up.
Not that. Look at the font. What is it? Remember you changed it to like normal?
Yeah.
So look at it.
Oh, it changed that.
Now, how does he get it over to the right side?
Oh, these are? This one. That's that. Okay. And then we just put our name. Yeah. No, no page number. Yeah, no page number for sure. We just put and we just put the title. and then
No. So she's right. You do have to put a page number, but am I just gonna type one?
Yeah, see, I was right. Say something. Say something.
What? No, did you say
Yeah,
that?
no.
No.
I was right. I was right. I was right.
No, I thought it was also for because I remember you said that.
MLA is your last name space and then you insert page.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I thought,
I was right.
that's cat.
It's awesome.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. I remember, but then she just said that's for
You gotta
APA.
put a
I did
comma.
that
You know what?
last
You can't type one.
You gotta go.
What do you have to insert?
Insert.
Insert. Insert.
All this is new.
These are considered tabs.
Okay.
Up here are tabs.
All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna
What
do-
is it?
Insert.
Insert. That's what I said.
So just so you guys know, these up here are called the tabs. These are called buttons.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
So go to page button.
Page number.
Page.
over there, but.
And this is a drop down,
Go to, yeah,
that one right there.
click OK, this is all right.
Boom. Okay, now how do you get out of it?
You just go back to home.
Don't
go back
How do you
to
get
home.
out of, how do you get out of the header?
Oh. Hey, don't you go
Click
home?
outside the box.
Just double click down here. Good job. Okay, so now you should be on your first line. So you have the correct font, but what else did you need to change?
Your indents or whatever.
Oh yes, you need to come over.
The thing.
Rings.
So this is the line spacing one. Now look, watch, if you wait, before you even do it, go back, click out of it. Okay. Now hover over it. Line and paragraph spacing.
Yes.
So if you hover over the buttons, it'll show you the title of that button.
Oh, okay. So for sure, you come here and put it too.
Yes,
Because
And then
you
you
wanna
double
split.
check, make sure it says 00,
yes.
even though it's default.
So, perfect. So go here.
You could put 2.5.
Okay,
That's right.
now it's right. Before you check out of it, see this box right here?
Mhm.
Says indentation?
Yeah.
Drop this down. Click over here and drop it.
This thing is so hard to
Yeah, I know.
complicate. Oh, because you're touching it.
No, I don't have a touchscreen. See, here it says hanging.
Yes.
That's what you use for your works cited. But right now, just leave it alone. Hit okay. Okay, so what does he put now?
Hey, look. What she told me yesterday is right there.
MLA 40? 40?
Yeah, the MLA
Student
formula.
name,
Yeah, you need to put-
last name, date.
Yeah, you need to
Yeah.
put your student name, so I'm guess I'm gonna put Luis. One.
That seems to be a common issue.
I usually put that. For the most part.
On his resume, hopefully.
And then enter. I don't know
Yes.
what else that says.
Teacher name.
Teacher,
Especially.
Miss dot
It has to be
Garcia.
Capitalization. right?
That's also what I meant to do. Probably really bad.
No, I'm kidding. You got a job, so I'll take it.
That is her last
Hit
name.
enter.
No class name.
Oh, I thought you said last name. I said that is her last name. Last name, which is
Number one, two,
I did not mean to put, oh,
I
English, número dos.
dash.
So,
Right.
No.
No, two, then dash.
Two capitalized.
two capitalized.
Uppercut, uppercase.
Then
Then dash.
space, dash,
Space.
space. Then
That's not a dash, sir. It's not a dash. Slash dash.
Space.
You know, flash dash on your dash.
No, I don't.
I don't know.
What did she say yesterday?
The period.
So
Oh,
period
yeah,
is it.
two, one.
Yes.
ST.
Oh, put the SC too.
Yes, sir. We fancy.
Yeah, I
in
know,
the
it's
house.
so complicated.
We
Space.
fancy in the
Oh,
house.
space, you want to put period?
No.
And then the date.
All right.
Go next.
Enter.
Okay.
Enter.
Date.
All right, now put the date.
Today,
It's
21st
like-
April
what's the date?
2021.
so,
no.
Whoa.
21.
yes, 21,
I said that.
which is 4. I'm so confused.
Hey, stop yelling at him.
All right,
21.
chill. So put 4, 20 something, 21. Okay,
21/04/2021. What?
so spell it all out.
21 April.
Okay, 21. Oh, shit.
They're slow.
She said 21 April. Okay.
April. Capitalization, sir.
Look, bruh.
Yeah.
No. April, yes. April. 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 April.
2021.
Wait, what?
2021.
2000,
No commas.
no comma, 2021.
There you go.
Hey, stop.
Wait.
Wait,
Enter.
enter.
All right, now
Now
put it in the
sir.
center. Go to
Go to the
line.
center button at the top with the lines that are aligned.
Yeah.
Now, there.
he's right.
Click there. Now your title.
And that's where I'm gonna put the top. Good job. All right, good job, guys. Okay.
All right, good stuff, guys. Even though I did
Okay.
really bad.
No, you didn't. So,
You know me.
very good job. And it's gonna get easier. It's become second nature, especially by the time you leave high school. You're gonna have it down, okay? So I'm gonna just put the title for practice. I'm gonna tab. Writing starts here. Okay, because I want to show you what I'm talking about with page breaks. Okay. I'll put here's. Here. Okay. Remember I said you're gonna go to the last line
Yeah.
of your writing and you're gonna hit enter. Okay, let's say I want to start my works cited. I go up to insert. Okay, and then I'm gonna go, I can't see today. Oh, no, not insert. You're gonna go to layout. The layout tab. And then right here, it says page break. Click it, it automatically starts it on a new page. So no matter what you do before it, this will always stay at same page. That's why you want to do it this way, okay? That's the same thing with the APA title page. You're gonna want to do a page break so that it always stays the same. All right, so then when you get here for your works cited, you're always gonna go center, and then you're gonna do works cited and hit enter. Now, I'm gonna go back to the left. Before I even start typing, so I don't have to go back and highlight everything, I'm gonna go back to the line spacing, which is, I need glasses. Okay, so I'm gonna go here to my line,
You want to change it to,
the hanging indent. Okay, and notice that it gives me a preview here.
Of what it's gonna look like.
Mhm.
So that's for when you're.
Yeah, and then everything 0, 0, still double spaced. I'm good. I'm gonna hit OK. So everything on this page on is gonna have a hanging indent until I turn it off.
Okay.
Okay, and so then I would just start typing. So let's see. If I wanted to use this one, okay? What is the first thing that I would put here? It's just a regular book. The author's name.
Last name.
Okay, so for this one, I'd probably put Degrassi Tyson, comma, Neil. Okay,
Cause this is.
Yeah. no, it's actually, that's his whole name. He has 2 last names, okay? So, and his name is a little crazy. Degrassi Tyson, comma, Neil, period. Then what do I do? The title, and it's in italics because it's a book. So astrophysics for people in a hurry, period. I'm gonna turn it off, okay? The italics off, space. Then what comes? You guys remember? The publisher. Okay, and I'm gonna find the publisher behind the title page. Or normally, he has other stuff here. Okay. Ah, here it is. So you'll keep flipping, it's normally right behind the title page. So this was copyrighted in 2017. And then it was published by W.W. Norton and Company Incorporated. So W.W. Norton Company Inc. Period, comma, and then I put 2017, right? Period. Now, later, let's say you only use certain pages or you're only using a certain chapter. If you're only using a certain chapter, then I would put page number, a page range right here. But I'm done. Easy. Then I hit enter, and it's automatically going to take me to the next one. But let me just show you what it'll look like. Hold on. So let's say you're typing. You see? You see how it set it up, the hanging indent? It's also going to do it with your URLs. So sometimes, let's go copy a URL. Let's say I want to copy let's do this. Just choose one. Okay. So you can copy it up here. And then let's say I'm gonna go paste it. See how it automatically moved it to the next line? Now, something else I want to show you. Because I know sometimes you guys are gonna be copying and pasting, even I do it. Sometimes I'll copy text, right? Like I said, I want just this as a quote. And I'm copying it. What you have to be careful, let's say I'm gonna put it up here. I'm trying to show you guys tricks for words so that it'll make it easier. So I paste it. Well, notice that it's in a different font, right?
Wow.
You see this little clipboard? You click it and you're gonna put matching and it changes it to the correct font. So now not only is it in Times New Roman, it's double spaced.
So you copy and paste it up from direct.
But what would I need to do so that I'm not plagiarizing?
You gotta put the art.
Now I put quotations, do an introduction and put my citation. Okay, so what ends up happening is when you guys tend to copy and paste a lot, sometimes you guys aren't catching it. So what you can also do, let's say you didn't change it. So let's say paste. Okay, so let's say it's like that, right? And I'm not paying attention. What I always do, just for my own, I'll go and I'll highlight everything. I'll do select. I can either go up to edit and select all. So where's my select all? I wish I could see today. That would be great. Edit.
She was on fire.
Oh, yeah. Select all. Okay. Notice how this blanked out? My font blanked out?
Yes.
If you select everything and it blanks out, that means you have different fonts.
Oh,
So
yeah.
all I need to do is go and fix it. I just click Times New Roman. Okay, but now again, what's wrong?
The spacing.
The spacing. So then I'm gonna have to go over here to my spacing. And I'm gonna have to double space it. So I always use that just to check. It's because sometimes, especially when you are copying and pasting, sometimes you forget to make it match, all right? So those are just some tricks with Word that you can do. All right, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do with it that I maybe before the end of the year, I'll show you. So tomorrow, what you're gonna be doing is a scavenger hunt and you're gonna be using the Purdue Owl. So if I was you, probably just like today or tomorrow, I would kind of go look through it just to get familiar with it. And it's only gonna be a couple of them that I'm gonna have you do. And then on Friday, you're only gonna have one task. On Friday, I just need you to go find one book. You're just gonna find any book laying around your house. You're gonna create a works cited for it. Okay, just the works cited. Then I'm gonna want you to go online and find one web article and create a works cited for it. And that's all you'll be required to do for Friday. You do it, you get 100. Okay, even if you have a couple of mistakes, I'm gonna be lenient. Now, if it's way off, I'm not gonna give you 100. But I do know that you guys are starting and it can get a little tricky, okay? So those are the only things that you're gonna be required to do for the rest of the week. So also make sure that you turn in the other stuff from this week, okay? Yes, no? Okay, do you guys have any questions? All right,